All right, hey everyone. It's March 6th, the year 2017, and this pedophile connection just seems to go absolutely insane when you start to look into it and how many people are involved. It's very similar to a movie that was put out called Spotlight, Spotlight. I recommend you guys check it out. It starts, there's like a newspaper that starts to investigate the pedophile priest in the Boston area, and they find one priest, they find two priests, and then they find three priests, and then it just explodes. There's like hundreds of priests that were identified in the Boston area and nationwide that were involved in child pedophilia and molestation of children. And there was I think his name is Cardinal Law. He was with the Vatican, or he was with the Catholic Church, and he was moving these pedophiles around so they could keep doing what they're doing rather than be held accountable and thrown in prison. Or executed if it was up to me. But anyway, instead of Cardinal Law getting defrocked and kicked out of the Catholic Church, he got a huge promotion, and they moved him to the Vatican. So you say, well, that's the Catholic Church. Well, it's not just the Catholic Church. It's prevalent all throughout our society. We got this Pizzagate, and this reminds me of Michelle Heldmyer in her involvement. She was the one of the lead United States prosecutors in the Ken Hovind case. You guys remember this picture here? This is the evildoers in the Ken Hovind case. And this lady right here, it's very hard to find any pictures of her, but I did find this one. This guy was actually a child pedophile, John David Roy Atchison, and he went and hung himself in his own cell once he was caught in a sting operation. Who knows if these other guys are involved in pedophilia? It's very possible that they are. Wouldn't surprise me if the judge is. And I'm not saying that Michelle Heldmyer is involved in it, but her husband, there's red flags all around her husband, and there appears to be pornography, probably child pornography, that was sent to her house. And I wanted to go through some news articles to remind you guys of exactly what's going on with Michelle Heldmyer and her husband, Joseph Heldmyer. And not only that, but there was a judge that committed suicide. Every time you shine the light into these bastards' life, some of them start committing suicide. Let's read this one. Attorney's actions warrant probe. It was May the 14th of 1994. So let's read this. A United States attorney represents the federal government on serious legal issues and is supposed to act responsibly and professionally. Ha ha ha. Valid questions about the actions and behavior of Larry Colleton, who is a U.S. attorney in the Middle District of Florida, have led him to take a 30-day leave of absence and the Justice Department to appoint a temporary replacement. Both moves are necessary while a thorough analysis of Colleton's conduct is carried out by the Justice Department. Only then can an informed judgment be made on whether he should be allowed to continue in the job. One investigation of Colleton already had been completed by the Justice Department's Office of Professional Responsibility. Now that's a very important phrase there, because that comes up over and over and over again. The Justice Department's Office of Professional Responsibility. They are the sinkhole for corruption within the Department of Justice, although not made public. It focuses on the January 1993 suicide of Circuit Judge Richard Kreidler. Now, a judge committed suicide because of this of Jacksonville, who was charged with receiving obscene materials through the mail. Later, it turned out that Joseph Heldmyer, okay, you say, who's Joseph Heldmyer? He's the husband of this lady here. Let's zoom in on her. Zoom in 400%. There you go. That's Michelle Heldmyer. Who's Michelle Heldmyer? She is the lead prosecutor, with this guy, John David Roy Atchison. So he went and hung himself in a jail cell once he got caught with child pedophilia. Her husband is being accused of receiving child pornography, right? And who knows if this judge over here, Margaret Casey Rogers, I mean, she certainly seems to be tight with all these people. Let's go back to reading the article. Later, it turned out that Joseph Heldmyer was on the pornography company's mailing list and had bought the same kinds of videotapes. Heldmyer, though, was never prosecuted. So you got, first of all, who knows what kind of pornography it is? I'm going to assume it's child pornography because that's illegal, right? And so you got child pornography, more than likely, being sent to the house of this lady right here with her husband. Okay? Joseph Heldmyer. Let me, whoops. Her house, right there. Okay? So you got pornography being sent to Joseph Heldmyer, her husband. This guy, John David Roy Atchison, and Michelle Heldmyer are the lead prosecutors for Ken Hovind. You got this judge over here. You got Gregory Miller. I don't know. Who knows what his involvement. You got she's got the craziest track record of being anti-Christian, anti-Ken Hovind. Called him worse than a rapist. She modified the trial transcript. And this guy right here is evil incarnate. He's the one who broke into the house and thinks he's set a name for himself because he took down Ken Hovind. His name is IRS Agent Scott Snyder. Of course, you got IRS Agent Charles Evans, too. But let's go back to the article. Okay. It focuses on the January 1993 suicide of Circuit Judge Richard Kreidler of Jacksonville, who was charged with receiving obscene materials through the mail. So you got a judge. You got a judge receiving obscene materials. Later, it turned out that Joseph Heldmyer, who's the husband of Michelle Heldmyer, was on the pornography company's mailing list and had bought the same kinds of videotapes. Heldmyer, though, was never prosecuted. Wow, why wasn't he prosecuted? Why? Was it because he's the husband of Assistant U.S. Attorney Michelle Heldmyer? Probably so. Presumably, the as-yet unpublicized report will attempt to answer that question. Let's not forget that Schaefer Cox was reporting child pedophilia up in Alaska. Another investigation is underway on Colleton's grabbing a television reporter by the throat and pushing him away. This happened last week, so the details have yet to be determined by the Justice Department. There's enough here, obviously, to question Colleton's job performance. Other U.S. attorneys have acted inappropriately at times, including a few in Florida, and some survived in their jobs after toning down their behavior. So perhaps Colleton will retain his job, although that's far from certain. And it goes on to say about how U.S. attorneys, it's important that they have integrity, which is a big joke. All right, let's go to this article here. Follow-up judge's suicide, November the 22nd, 1994. What became of the investigation of a federal obscenity prosecution that led to the suicide of a Duval County judge? Answer: a judicial grievance committee says there is no evidence Michelle Heldmyer and Stephen M. Coons, both assistant U.S. attorneys, improperly handled the high-profile obscenity case. Duval County Judge Richard M. Kreidler killed himself after a month after being indicted in December 1992 on federal charges of ordering and receiving obscene videotapes from a New York company at his courthouse office. During the investigation of Kreidler, it was learned that Michelle Heldmeyer's husband, Joseph, was on the same subscriber list as Kreidler, who had received tapes. A Jacksonville defense lawyer who asked for the inquiry questioned why the husband was never charged. Sources said the cases were very different, however. For example, Heldmyer cooperated with authorities, destroyed the tapes when questions arose about their legality. Oh, she destroyed the tapes. Sounds like Bill Fulton when he destroyed the tapes that would have cleared Schaefer Cox, and did not have the judge's responsibility for hearing obscenity cases. U.S. Attorney Charles M. Wilson, in a statement released by his office in Tampa, said the committee's findings were consistent with the U.S. Department Justice finding in June. Oh, how about that? The Department of Justice cleared one of their own. Let's go to this article. This is in the Associated Press. I don't know what the newspaper is, but pornography scandal generates heated battle. Jacksonville, accusations of selective prosecution in a pornography scandal have resulted in heated denials from the U.S. Attorney and the Congressman's appeal for a review. The case involves a former judge indicted for receiving obscene videotapes through the mail. The same tapes were sent to the home of Assistant U.S. Attorney, but no charges were filed. On Wednesday, U.S. Attorney Larry Colleton took the offensive in responding to questions about a grievance petition filed by defense attorney and unsealed Wednesday by Chief U.S. District Judge John H. Moore II at Colleton's request. "We are no longer going to be sitting silent. We are going to be going on the offensive," said Colleton, who called the petition inappropriate and irresponsible. Dan Smith, Northeast Chapter of Florida Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, said his group had a duty to file the petition. Goes on to say, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's just full of stuff that we've already read before. In the petition, the group asked Moore to appoint a committee to investigate allegations that retired Duval County Judge Richard W. Kreidler, I've also seen that as Richard M. Kreidler, so I've seen it as W. Kreidler and M. Kreidler if you ever try to do a search on him, was indicted on federal obscenity charges at a time when the United States Attorney's Office knew full well that the very same allegedly obscene materials had been delivered to the home of Assistant United States Attorney Michelle Heldmyer. Okay, it goes on to say Heldmyer lied about her knowledge of the tapes ordered by her husband, Joseph, after which, instead of being prosecuted, she was promoted. Now, let me read that again. Heldmyer lied about her knowledge of tapes ordered by her husband, Joseph, after which, instead of being prosecuted, she was promoted. So, if you take down America's best creationist, if you put him and his wife in prison, if your husband's ordering child pornography, and if you lie about it, what happens to you in the Department of Justice? You get promoted. You get promoted. And you probably become best friends with Judge Margaret Worse Than Rape Catherine Rogers. Coons and Heldmyer concealed their knowledge about a possible felony being committed by Heldmeyer's husband involving the same materials for which Kreidler was indicted. Kreidler killed himself in January 1993, a month after he was indicted. Joseph Heldmyer has not been prosecuted. Colleton, who took office after the obscenity case ended, promoted both Kuntz and Michelle Heldmyer. The petition claims the allegations, if true, violate numerous ethics guidelines established by the U.S. and Florida Supreme Courts and America Bar Association. Responding to a request from the Jacksonville City Council, U.S. Representative Corin Brown asked U.S. Attorney Janet Reno, that's funny, Mrs. Death of Waco, the Wicked Witch of Waco, a fellow Floridian, to look into the matter. She assured me that she would take it very seriously, the Jacksonville Democrat said. I think we need to take a look at this one. A Justice Department lawyer accepted a plea from Ben Blossom and dismissed all charges against Gordon Hodges. Okay. Well, anyway, this is the information that I was able to find on Michelle M. Heldmyer and her pornographic ordering husband. And she was already working with another child pedophile. So just think of all the links that are going on here. You got Judge Margaret Worse Than Rape Catherine Rogers, who we have solid evidence that she changed the trial transcript to remove the fact that she called Ken Hovind worse than rapist. That's a felony all by itself. Brady has proven that she participated in fraud against Ken Hovind. This guy hung himself in a prison cell for being a child pedophile and getting caught in a sting operation. This lady is got smoke and fire all around her with her husband ordering illegal pornographic material, and the same mailing list that her husband was on, Judge Richard M. or Richard W. Kreidler committed suicide over. And she's working closely with IRS agent Scott Snyder. And you got Mrs. Goody Two-Shoes over here who wanted to run Ken Hovind out of business so she could take his land and get rid of the competition for writing children's books. So she testified against Ken Hovind in her Mrs. Goody Two-Shoes act on the witness stand. If you ever go care to read her testimony, it'll make you sick. And this David Gibbs III testified against Ken Hovind. And if you go read his testimony, it'll make you sick too. But anyway, what they think was done in the dark, what they think they got away with, God will bring to the light. God bless every one of you, and never ever stop saying the truth.